Playing EDC every day is like eating suction flying. Hi all, I am Brother Shi in the last episode of the 12 years. Brother Shi also brought you a long-prepared horizontal flat about the day fold. Our horizontal review today is carried out from 4 aspects. 1 is the Japanese flavor. The 2nd is the experience of opening the river. The 3rd is workmanship. 4th, it is cost-effective. Let's start the first scoring session now. Japanese flavor. Let's start with Lao Jio's porridge. This is a relatively old jackknife. When talking about Japanese folding knives, we have a clear concept. What do we mean by Japanese folding knives? What about the Japanese folding knife I understand in this folding knife design element? It has some design language of traditional Japanese art swords. Including but not limited to this knife, the reverse cut is the tendon first. And this knife hole and so on. This imitation of the Japanese style of higo hand folding. I don't think it can be among our ratings today. Because this higo is a product of the Japanese style of folding after the Meiji era. What we are discussing today is Japan. The more traditional Japanese art sword. That is, some of what we commonly call 50 knives. Let's continue to look at the flavor of this porridge. First of all, this knife was made. Hook scarf. Then the tangent was made. The so-called hook scarf is the line we see. On traditional Japanese swords, the hook tendon plays a watershed role. From this piece, the upper part is the knife hole, and the lower part is the blade in front. He also made cutting fibers, which is what we commonly call this kind of knife head. Kick head and head. Is the head of the stall. It must contain this tangent part. This can become a razor-shaped tough design. It is a relatively standard Japanese knife. The sword head takes into account the strength of this knife. The second is aesthetics. Its knife hole did not open to this knife root, but in this one, the middle part of the choice comes to an abrupt end. I think it's understandable. He didn't make a knife in his own knife shape. Instead, I made this kind of design that doubles the positive effect. The middle is high and the sides are low, and the standard of Japanese swords is high on both sides. Intermediate low is the opposite direction. If I rate it on its flavor, I think this knife can get a 7.5 points. Then let's take a look at the Huai sword of this Beishan material. It is a standard Japanese style of killing shape. It is especially like a Japanese transfer in a white sheath. We all know the Japanese sword. It usually equips a lot of this kind of decoration. But when his knife is not usually used, it is a stick stuck in this hole made of wood, which is called a white hole. He simulated the state of the Japanese knife in the white orifice. The whole knife has a knife technique. We stand it here, and the middle is empty. So it is a standard Japanese style with a low middle and high sides. The form of a sword. Its knife head also makes that kind of cutting effect. As you can see, there is a semicircular arc cutting effect here. The hook is made here and the knife movement is also made on this piece. But considering the overall aesthetics and knife of the knife, the strength is also thin and shallow and long. But it has all the flavors it should have. The overall Japanese element. There are many characteristics of Japanese style. But this Jinshan carving. It basically has nothing to do with Japanese style, which is also a minus. If you are particularly looking for the flavor of Japanese swords, I think you can buy the plain unengraved version. I gave this knife a Japanese flavor rating. I think I can get 8.5 points. Then look at another Kitayama knife is its classic exhibition large tengu. This is a sculpture co-branded by Aizu. When we say Japanese flavor, we still look at the overall shape first. The overall design of this knife is flat, without any knife technique. However, Japanese swords also have this flat-bladed design. And in this design language, I think it is very cleverly done. It is wide in the middle and narrow on both sides. When you look at this knife from a distance, you feel that it has a knife counter. Look at its blade design. This piece is made of hooks. The front is cut into fibers. The above is also this kind of false blade design. The Japanese flavor is very full. And what is rare about this knife is that he made a Japanese theme. A painting style of a big tengu carving. Aizu was originally a big opening and closing. There is this style of the costume club. So I think this knife has a Japanese flavor. The score is higher than that of this North Mountain. We can give him a high score of 9. Then there is this Kazan who pays attention to the studio. Let's start with the shape of the knife. The shape of this knife is basically not related to the Japanese style, and the blade is sheathed. But the tail of the knife is a lower bridge, which is an S-shaped curve as a whole. This is a form that I have not seen in traditional Japanese swords. Then let's talk about its blade design. Its blade head is made up and down with a V. But there is no clear dividing line in the middle, and no tangent line is made in front. The only Japanese element of this knife is the picture of Mount Fuji he carved. This patch is very Japanese. But if we replace this patch with the content of an Egyptian pharaoh, or to replace an Arabic-themed content, 1,500 pages of content, I think this knife as a whole has no sense of disobedience. So I think its Japanese flavor is the worst, and I can only give it a 5. Then let's talk about this EKK2 from Risa. I can see that this one has a very obvious upside down, high middle low tendon effect, fiber cutting effect, the knife action effect on it, and its armor blade is almost open to the whole field. That is, the effect of the knife movement is very obvious. So whether it is in the knife shape or the blade shape, this Japanese flavor is very, very strong. Including this knife, it makes some Japanese accessories. You can see that this Brother Hai also has a full Japanese Demoros. Then he did this Cobra push twist. There is also this electric coil of the Cobra. But I don't think this Cobra is doing well. This is obviously the special of the cartoon we watched when we were children. The eye in the Cobra has a big plug in the shape. I don't know if this is called a block. Anyway, it is the part that bulges out of the eyes, which is completely American. The eyes say that the Japanese style is not like this. This tongue is a bit close, but it's also a cord end. It may also be considering that this can be decorated on multiple knives. So what may be done is less particular. Here brother, she said one more word. When he was segmenting this knife, he made a concave film. I specially asked for verification that our Douyin makes Japanese-style swords. A very authoritative old man from the waist and belly factory. I asked if there was omo in Japanese swords, and he gave me the answer that there was no omo. Japanese swords are either flat membranes or separated blades. He doesn't make this kind of concave film. Of course, this is understandable. This Ressa is fully considering the overall aesthetics of our sword. And this production cost, so he made a concave film. And the effect is very good. Pick the bones in the egg. If this block can make a person. But this affirmative price is more than that. It might work better. So the overall flavor of this knife, I think it can reach 9.5 points. And finally, it's one of these. 131 of the 3-bladed wood. This is also a Japanese-style Huaijin peak. It also made a knife reverse effect, and its overall shape is no problem. Then let's look at this knife on such a thin blade. He also made this kind of appetizing prosthetic blade. That is to say, what we commonly call knife holes is rare, and there is a shallow tendon effect. You can see it, but the only regret of this knife is that it didn't make a cut. But this blade is really too thin, and it's cheap. I think it's completely understandable that he didn't make a cut. All in all, you can give an 8th. Okay. This is a final score for these 6 swords in terms of Japanese flavor. Then let's move on to our second score. That is, the scoring of the unboxing experience, or start with this old Nine's porridge. This thief is really a hellish novice, and it can't be opened at all. Seeing that I am quite skilled, it's because I really spend a lot of time and money to practice. But as I said before, this knife is very difficult to open and close. But the feedback on its opening and closing is still good. A screen lock knife gives you a smooth opening and closing feedback. Yes, I think you can get a 6 point overall. 10,000 taels of gold from Beishan material. This knife is a single front quick opening. Japanese knife. It is a relatively common phenomenon to use a single front to open quickly. The sense of power, smoothness, fluency, and feedback are all very sufficient. This road is in today's 6 lanes. I think his opening and closing experience should be the best. Gave him a high score of 9.5 points. Kitayama's Jean Tengu. This Daojing is also a single front car to drive quickly. The opening and closing of this knife has a sense of power, and the smooth bean is also available. But the quick opening of this knife, I think it's still not as good as his quick opening period. There is no such historical fast start period. Drive more smoothly, feels better. When you play it, I can't get a more pleasant opening and closing experience. So this knife can only give him an 8th point. Then he said that this Meteor family's card drill. This knife is also a single front quick open. The quick opening of this knife, I think it is a very good sense of power and smoothness. The feedback that C-Lock brings to you is very good. And this knife design is very good. When it opens and closes, it will have this sharp knife out of its sheath and pit sound. I don't know if you can hear it. I'll take this microphone in. I think I can get a score of 9 for this knife EKK2. This knife is not easy to open. We replaced this eye with it, after the tongue was pushed and twisted. His opening and closing will be relatively smooth, but his problem was more than smooth, and the feedback was insufficient. The feedback on his screen lock is not very strong, although there are 2 quick-on modes, but it still won't bring you a lot of enjoyment. The kind of experience that makes you can't help but open it. So in summary, I think I can get a 7.5 points. Then there is the 131 of 30M. This quick opening experience is really good. And I have always thought that this 30 wood 131 is in all this kind of front quick opening. It is a top-notch smoothness. The sense of power feedback is very high. Whenever you take it out, you can't help but experience his fast driving fun. So I think this knife can be the same as him. Get a 9. Okay. This is a final score for the opening and closing performance of these 6 knives. Okay. Next, we will make our third rating, which is the workmanship score. Let's start with the boat of Lao Jiu. This knife is an early work of Lao Jiu. It is in the polishing of the blade. I think there is already a prototype of Rusa's exquisite workmanship. The polishing of its blade is made of a matte surface. This surface treatment of horizontal strip brushing. The dividing line of overall polishing is clearly visible. The workmanship of the blade is impeccable. The overall spine is very tight. There are also some unrefined aspects of production. For example, like this screw, this push cutter head is included. It seems to be very unadvanced, so this knife has a comprehensive score in workmanship. I think I can get a 7.5 points. Then there is this gold of 10,000 taels in Beishan. This knife is a high-end work of Kitayama, so it is not as good as Kitayama. All the problems you have seen in the past, the middle of the blade, the smoothness of opening and closing, including its quality control in some details, back clip, hidden loose rope hole, the half-cut backbone, and the overall sense of luxury of the knife are given to you. Its workmanship, I think I can get a 9-fold. Then there is another large Tengu from Kitayama, the Great Tengu. This knife is similar to the level of workmanship compared to the Huai sword. It is also the treatment of this kind of internship plus horizontal temperature pull for. All of its dividing lines are also very clear. There are no problems with including engraving. I think these 2 knives are the same level of score. Can get a 9. Then there is the Kazan knife from the Popular Studio. It has no problems in terms of workmanship. The polishing of its blade, the horizontal red drawing, and the effect of this precision magnetic washing. This knife as a whole gives people a strong sense of luxury. Including it to make this patch, it has a wide variety of replaceable patches. Then its screw processing, its screen lock treatment, including this hidden steel lock, as well as this underframe design. The overall workmanship is very good. Slightly less complex. Give a score of 8.5. Then there is this one made by Rusa. Rusa, as I said before, his blade is very well polished, including his titanium handle and the closing knife. This state he presents to you, I think vegetarian, but it doesn't seem low level. I think this knife should be rated the same as the 2 of them. Finally, let's talk about this knife of 30 wood, the knife of 30 wood, and the knife of 30 wood. I think it's about workmanship because its price is more than 200 after all. It's already done very well at its price. But compared with the arrival of the above models, I think the workmanship is good. Of course, there is still no way to compare, including his blade is relatively thin. His material, carbon fiber plus steel dust. Including this, I have said before, inexplicably this wire-style back clip. It is also very confusing, because we are scoring together. Only 7 points can be scored. This is the final score of our 6 knives today in terms of workmanship. Next is our last rating today. This is the cost-effective rating. Lao Jiu's porridge. Because it is a relatively old knife. This knife has been cheap for a while before. Now I don't know why it has grown again. Maybe because of this Rissa. There have been some more popular products recently. The new knife is almost gone. This second-hand price is about 123. I think this overall cost performance is relatively low. If it is 123, it may only score a 7. It's more like a gold knife. This knife is priced at 1888 as a high-end product of Beishan. An engraved version, I think its pricing is also high. I think it's a reasonable price point at 123. I think this knife can get 8 servings. In terms of cost performance, then let's look at this knife. This knife is similar to it. This brand new one can also be seen at a price of about 1405. I think it's a little more cost effective, because its opening and closing experience is slightly worse. I think if it's 8 points, it's an 8.5 point card. This knife in my hand is the first generation, and it has been out for the second generation. It is a backbone with full baggage. The new knife is about 800 yuan. If you don't care much about its shape, its workmanship is matched with the price of 800 yuan. I don't think there is any problem. You can also get a high score of 8.5 points. Risa's EKK2 knife. If we follow the release price of Tarisa at 888 yuan, I think this knife is cost effective. This is 10 points and it is full. But this knife, except for you grabbing the starting spot, basically they are all bought at one price. Now this premium is also quite outrageous. The naked knife will be more expensive in the 1400s. I think this knife 1200 is a good cost performance comparison. If it's 1500 yuan, You can get a price of more than 131,200 for 8 points and 30M. I think there is nothing to criticize about this form and experience. Willing to give it a 9. Okay, this is a final score for these 6 knives in terms of cost performance. Finally, let's summarize each knife in one sentence. This state is borrowed from the excellent designs of some foreign designers. I have already seen the prototype of Russa's fine workmanship, but there are still some imperfections. I think this knife can be collected if the price drops to about 600 yuan. This knife is 10,000 taels of gold. It is also out of print now. You should not be able to buy it. Then if you like this Japanese style of kamikaze, I like this high-strength opening and closing feel. I don't think there's anything wrong with this knife. More people in the big Tengu are fancy to this big picture of Aizu. Tengu's painting to buy the shape of this knife is no problem. No problem with collection. The play is a little worse, and then this card drill knife from the popular studio. If you don't care about its shape, its workmanship is cost-effective, and the experience is completely okay. I think this knife is just a play day, right? Such a knife is a must-enter. There are no options. This one is nothing more Japanese than it is made. Although the opening and closing experience is slightly weaker, the price is also slightly higher. It's you who like to fold the sun. There's always a knife that can't be escaped. However, it is said that the knife will resume production in May this year. Or can you wait for this knife? I think if you like daily folding, it's basically a must-buy knife. Because of the price of more than 200, that's all for today. Playing EDC every day is like eating a sparse fly. What else do you want to see? You can leave a message in the comment area. Finally, I wish you all a happy year of the horse in advance. Happy New Year. It's time for Dalong to play EDC.